Come along and ride this train. Come along and ride this train. Across the mountains, prairies, reservations, rivers, levees, plains. Come along and ride this train. Ride this train with me to Fort Ice, Arkansas. And let's ride it back in time to the early 30s. You see those little glowing fires over there? That's a hobo jungle. Hobos gather here to catch a freight train down some lonesome railroad line in search of a job. It's a hard life for a man sitting out there waiting for that freight. To ease the pain of waiting, he often sits and holds his tin cup of coffee, and like a gypsy with her crystal ball, gazes into the embers of the fire and thinks back when the only thing he had in the world was pretty good, even though it was just a wrinkled, crinkled, wadded dollar bill. All that I've got between me and Pauper's Hill is a wrinkled, crinkled, wadded dollar bill. I've got a mess of blues on my mind, and at least 1,000,000 miles behind me. And all that I've got between me and Pauper's Hill is a wrinkled, crinkled, wadded dollar bill. It sure smells good at the bakery, and I stand and let the smell flood over me. They sell those day-old cakes mighty cheaply. I could eat my fill with the wrinkled, crinkled, wadded dollar bill. Oh, I'm not bound, and I never will be to a wrinkled, crinkled, wadded dollar bill. Well, just about the time I was born, my daddy was riding a freight train, catching it at Fort Ice and riding down to Memphis or other points where he might get a job cutting cordwood for 35 cents or maybe 50 cents a day. But any job that he found, he was thankful for. It was hard work, but it was honest. And it earned money to send back home to us kids. My daddy was one of hundreds of thousands of men that led this kind of life during the bitter, hungry years of the Depression. He wasn't a bum, and he didn't know anybody that was. They all had to work, and if you didn't work, you didn't make it. Sometimes the pickings were mighty lean, and at times were almost unbearable. Some fell by the wayside along the tracks and in the yard. Some were beaten by the elements, beaten by the rain, the cold, and some just gave up out of desperation. My daddy rode the top of a freight car into Memphis one cold, wet January night, and he had to be pulled from the bars where he lay nearly frozen. You know, this wasn't uncommon, and a lot of men weren't quite as lucky as my dad, and they took their last ride into eternity on some snowbound freight train. Riding on an eastbound freight train, speeding through the night, Hobo Bill, the railroad bum, was fighting for his life. The sadness of his eyes revealed the torture of his soul. He raised a weak and weary hand to brush away the cold. Outside the rain was falling on that lonesome boxcar door, but the little form of Hobo Bill lay still up on the floor, while the train sped through the darkness and the raging storm outside. Nobody knew that Hobo Bill was taking his last ride. It was early in the morning when they raised the hobo's head, a smile still lingered on his face, but Hobo Bill was dead. There was no mother's longing to soothe his weary soul, for he was just a railroad bum who died out in the cold. Even if a lot of the good times were bad, he knew how to make the best of his role. He lived on that one dream of catching one more fast freight that'd roll him on down the line where the grass could be a little greener. One more ride, one more ride. I long for a trip, I don't need no grip, I'm taking one more ride. Way out there in the prairie air, I guess it's in my hide, for the clickety-clack of the railroad track is calling. If a man could know where the Santa Fe goes when she gets under steam, and the big loud bell at Vaughn's farewell could hear her whistle scream, he's bound to go where there ain't no snow a fall.